Welcome to Break from Fear with Terry Pickens. I especially would like to welcome all the subscribers and followers to our channel, where you will get a complete education on survival mode. We are doing a series on the effects of survival mode, and today's video is entitled, "You Are Not Crazy. The survival mode effect distorting your senses." So this is a series on the survival mode effect. And today we look at 4 parts. The first one is, what is perceptual disturbance? The second part tells why everything feels too much or maybe numb, or both. The third part, we discuss how survival mode distorts your senses. And the fourth and last section, I'm going to look at how do you come back to safety from living in survival mode. So as I said, you're not crazy. The survival mode effect that's distorting your senses. Do you ever feel like you're going crazy? I know I do a lot of the times. Do you ever feel like your senses are lying to you? Well, folks, you are not crazy. You're in survival mode. This mode is taking a lot of young lives in our different communities and in our world. Have you noticed? When our nervous system is stuck in survival mode, it creates a perceptual disturbance, meaning your senses become distorted, overwhelming, or even numb. In today's video, I break down exactly what is happening to your body and why you feel detached, overstimulated, and sometimes not real. You are not broken, folks. Your body is working hard to protect you. But as discussed in the past, during your primal years, your brain became frozen in a protective posture. So this, most of the time, it's an irrational fear that your body's protecting you from. So the goal is always to get out of survival mode. But first, let's look at what is a perceptual disturbance. This happens when your brain interprets all sensory information differently from how it truly exists in reality. Survival mode redirects your nervous system, which distorts how you see, how you hear, and how you feel the world around you. So, instead of giving you an accurate picture of reality, your senses are filtered through a shield of protection. Remember, the sympathetic nervous system protection, in other words, an alarm. It sees it through a threat mode. Now, folks, it's not always viewed as a perceptual disorder per the DSM. That's the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual used for psychology. For many people with mental health conditions, for example, schizophrenia or severe depression, perceptual disorders aren't occasional glitches, as in survival mode, but they're rather persistent challenges that shape daily life. Now, why is it that everything feels too much or numb? Let's answer that. Everyday survival mode perceptual disturbances, in other words, the everyday perceptual disturbances we're discussing in this video, are glitches that can manifest in ways that most people would consider outright weird, including having phobias, fear of body parts, fear of heights, fear of distance, fear of open space, insects, food, having noise, hypersensitivity, fear of conflict, fear of saying no, fear of other people. This is a real social issue. Feeling paranoid, overly skeptical, having fear of health issues, and even a big one in our culture is delusions. So why does this happen? Well, when chronic stress or trauma, as when our primal brain became frozen in a protective posture, when this pushes the brain into chronic survival mode, then the nervous system stays locked in a high threat state. And under this extreme pressure, the mind may form fixed, unshakable beliefs, or what the other name for that would be delusions. Not as random errors, folks, but as desperate, self-stabilizing attempts to restore some sort of meaning, some sort of safety, and emotional balance when reality really feels completely overwhelming. So today, lots of people we interact with on a daily basis had to say they are delusional. For example, a video editor who doesn't follow the script or the direction that he's given, who promises to finish the video in 4 days, but end up taking 2 weeks to complete it. At the end of the completion, he wants a 5-star review, and he gets very upset if he doesn't get that. And that's despite the shoddy work that he's done. That is a delusion. Think of the people you know, and remember, a delusion is a false belief. So all you have to do is to check it against what is real or reality. The last part we're looking at is how survival mode distorts your senses. One way this distortion is labeled is under what I call hypervigilance. Under hypervigilance, your eyes, your ears search constantly for danger. Small noises or neutral faces can look and feel threatening to you. Someone walking behind you as you walk into a building can feel threatening to you, where you step to the side or you have to stop and look behind you. It can create tunnel vision. This is where your brain narrows your focus and you miss details, context, and beauty because you're only focused on the risks. That's the only thing you're looking for. Then there's the emotional numbing. You might feel less in your body, and sounds can seem so far away, and your sense of touch or pleasure can even fade. How about when you overanalyze? Overanalyzing is simple pauses in a conversation or you're looking or reading a neutral text message and it begins to feel like signs of rejection. You're reading too much into it. You're overanalyzing it, and thus can cause a bit of paranoia. That may be an understatement. It could be a whole lot of paranoia, if you know what I'm saying. There are also common shifts in the senses. There's a shift in sight. So brighter lights can hurt or annoy you a lot more than is normal. Your eyes scan the room quickly instead of resting on one thing and taking your time. How about sound? Sudden noises make you jump. Normal background sounds feel way too loud or annoying to you. So you have to wear earplugs or a headphone in certain settings. Under feel and touch, the sense of touch, your muscles stay very tight. You might feel dizzy, you're feeling shaky, or you feel disconnected from your own hands and feet. People, you can have a perceptual disturbance of time or space. I'll give you an example. The size of the car you drive can distort your perception of space. For example, when you're driving an SUV, it can begin to feel like the vehicle is not touching the ground. You may only be able to drive a small car or a sedan, which these cars are much closer to the ground in a way they ground you. So here is the big question and the answer to it. How do we come back to safety? Well, the effects of perceptual disorders extend far beyond the sensory experiences themselves. These conditions can create ripple effects throughout a person's life. It is very important to note that not all unusual sensory experiences indicate a disorder. I'll repeat that. Not all unusual sensory experiences indicate a disorder. Cultural context matters significantly in interpreting. What might be considered hallucination, for example, in one cultural setting could be a normal spiritual experience in another. So clinicians must consider cultural background and the environment when evaluating perceptual experiences. But more importantly, drop the shame, folks. Talk about your internal state with other people, since the concept or root cause of survival mode still remains a mystery to those who are treating. The next thing is learn to breathe, learn to meditate, educate yourself, learn to recognize and challenge all distorted thinking patterns, learn to develop coping mechanisms for when these symptoms do occur. Simple environmental changes can also reduce the frequency of some perceptual disturbances, like driving a sedan versus an SUV, minimizing noise or the time you spend around it. For example, don't go walking when the landscapers are working with the loud blowers. Of course, what's more important to say is consulting with a mental health professional for a complete mental health assessment is always the best approach to utilizing behavioral modalities and to employ neuroplasticity. Why? So we regulate the nervous system. Lastly, folks, a support group can help you connect with people who are experiencing similar challenges. The group can reduce any isolation and it can provide practical coping strategies for daily living. You're blessed here. I'm coming to the end of the video, and just to remind you, the goal is always to get out of survival mode and do not go back in it. So don't forget, this is the end of the video. Don't forget to like, to comment, to subscribe. And coming up in the next video, I will tell you about why God is not in survival mode. This is all for now. I will see you next time. Bye now.